I'm just doing my thing. I'm getting lighted. Someone else talk.
Okay. So, my name is Sarah.
Hi,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hello.
There.
I am here in a sense for this purpose with this moment right now because I don't think he knows. Maybe he does. Who knows? You can never tell with this guy. But you know, we've kind of been plotting in a good way, a way for us to really demonstrate how much we love you and how much we care and respect and honor you. So, what was that? That's a little chortle. We feel as though, you know, I was really reflecting after one of my amazing appointments with you, and I was just like, you know what, I really want to be able to give something, you know, but I don't want to, even though it's nice, go to Hallmark and get a little ornament. So Carla actually suggested utilizing one of the things I enjoy doing, which is writing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll write him a letter, but then I'm like, I don't want this to just be from me, because then that's just another thing, like you know, you already know how much I care and love you. And I'm like, there's so many people, from everyone who I've met, and this goes back to your man, who undeniably look at you with nothing but love and respect. So I'm like, then let's get this collective, proper rendition of what any letter to you should be composed of. So, you know, it's funny because the first one that you received was Life's Way of healing you of any possible perceived weaknesses or insecurities. This is now going to completely do what you do, reinforce with affirmations from people who love you, just seeding this truth for you forever. So, I've had many people contribute, whether in form or maybe just in spirit. They weren't able to get it to me ahead of time, no worries. Just know that the intention is there, as always. So this is beautifully wrapped. If you want to open it, Mary Lou was so creative and so eager to really share her creativity this way too, in terms of.
So we came out of the bank tonight.
Yes, it really did. So these are a collection of letters. I believe there's at least 13, 14 people who were able to get it to me within the past month and a half or so. You know, I've indicated who's who in terms of just different font writing. It's a way to really see the people who have been touched by you, who can express that in writing form.
Wow.
And those of us who didn't get a chance to write are saying ditto, ditto, ditto.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So, and there are, Mary Lou was so cute to do this. She went through and put pieces of pink paper in every little cover slip. So, you know, it's filled, but only in the sense that there's some that are actually written and then some that are blank. So, I mean, it's kind of like, let's welcome any other ones. If anyone has something they want to share or provide, like, you know, it doesn't have to be like deadlines reached, projects over. It's like,
No, because love is ongoing.
right.
Wow. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to really take some time to read this. Wow, what an incredible offering. So thank you so much. I really kind of don't know what to say.
That's first.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Thank you so much. Everyone who contributed in writing or in spirit, thank you so much. I'm going to really enjoy this in a moment of privacy, because I know it'll be a little bit moving, I'm sure. So,
I have something I wish to read.
sure.
Celebrating Peace, Heart Song. This is an acrostic poem I wrote. H, heavenly healer sent from God. E, everlasting love and compassion. A, admired as an advocate for all. R, reflective and resourceful. T, truthful and trustworthy. S, spiritual leader. O, only one like you. N, nurturing navigator. And G, gracious and grateful. With love, celebrating your hands.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It goes in the binder as
Yes.
well there, right?
Yes.
All right.
You tell the story of it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. We are blessed to have our flutist, so we're going to have some Native American music for our meditation. So Greg, would you honor us with your gift, please? So I didn't even get a study guide as usual.
Here, Keith.
You have one? Which closest? So, what an incredible 3 weeks. We haven't been in class for 2 weeks. This is our 2 weeks off. We're back. Boy, oh boy, lots happened. I can only speak personally from that point of view. I'm sure it's happened a lot in everyone's life, but from the end of the chapter, release of self-doubt, to the miracle being finally filmed and put out there, people that really see what's happening, what's possible. Just a lot of incredible change. So all I can say when I'm presented with such beautiful things is that I humbly accept all of that in the name of what gives me the ability to be what I am and do what I do. I can't accept it personally because that really wouldn't be appropriate. I can only accept it in the name of what gives the ability for all this to be possible. So in the force and source of all creation's name that I call God, I accept all of that in its name, not my own. I find my own identity is becoming more and more insignificant, more and more irrelevant, and in a beautiful way, completely unimportant to everything that's really happening. It doesn't mean I place any less worth on what I am. In fact, I believe I'm worth more than ever. I just don't place as much worth on who I am, because it's really about what I am, not who I am. All that happens is more because of what is than particularly who anyone is in and of themselves. So as I continue to live my life more and more in that space of just bliss and experience, who doesn't seem to matter as much as what. So I thank you all for that, and I will truly enjoy that. That being said, let's back to the practice. So it's been a couple weeks, but let's. Oh, by the way, I believe it's 110, right? 110 members now? I thought it was 110. Something like that. So again, it took us from beginning of May to the end of pretty much like the middle, something like that, of August, right? To get to 100, and within a few weeks from that, we're already at 110. So there's some ideas that I want to talk about how that all works, and the practice teaches us about that. So we'll get to that. It's critical that harmony with the order of life comes first. Harmony means we tell the truth. We must primarily obligate ourselves to our relationship with life. We must put life first because we have an eternal relationship with life. As always, we do not judge ourselves. We honor where we are at and now. We treat ourselves lovingly and compassionately. Focus points. Miracles are all around us all the time. Who needs a burning bush when the whole world is on fire? Beautiful, beautiful statement. Beautiful statement. Speaking the truth from a loving intention is always in the highest good, an essential part of practicing. We must be leaders. We must be the leaders we want to see in the world. The more we practice, the more we find in life to celebrate. Sometimes the greatest miracle of all is a change in perspective. That's profound and true. Remember, a healing for one of us is a healing for all of us. From this understanding we share with each other the intention of healing and balance, of acceptance, compassion, and love. Reflection questions. What miracles have I recognized in the past week of my life? What miracle did you recognize that you just shared with me?
Oh, I am afraid to meditate. I'm afraid to go deep. And I've always just thought it was the laundry list. I've always just said, oh yeah, I meditate, but I've never really gone deep. And I was able today to verbalize it for the first time. And once I speak it, I can fix it.
Right. So it isn't an inability to meditate, it was an actual fear of the meditation.
It's a fear.
Because in that deepness and that connection, there was a fear of what am I going to know? What am I going to come to find out? What's going to change, right?
And now I'm just looking forward to it.
Right. That's a miracle.
But I did have another one.
Good. Go ahead.
I went to Massachusetts where I spent all of my summers, and my parents had a very tumultuous relationship and would fight a lot. And I slept out on this sleeping porch, and sometimes I'd look up and I would see the Big Dipper framed in between the screens, and then I knew everything was okay. So I was there 2 weeks ago, and I'm fussing in my head. I couldn't sleep. I'm gonna cry. It's really moving. I'm moving myself. I couldn't sleep, and I woke up to go to my suitcase. I was in a totally different house, not the one where I had the sleeping porch. And I looked up, and there was the Big Dipper framed in between 2 pine trees. Beautiful, the whole thing. And I went, okay, God, thank you. It's okay. Then I went to bed. I went to sleep. Because I knew that that was the sign that what I've been fussing over is all going to filter out and work out. And that's a miracle to me.
That is exactly what we just said, when sometimes the greatest miracle of all is a change in perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly, it's a wonderful example of that miracle. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody over here?
Couldn't be the only one.
Lynn?
I had a practical miracle happen.
Beautiful.
I went to California a couple weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and came back, and for the first time, and some of you will, I'm sure, understand this, I was too exhausted to come to see you, and I canceled you, which is like unheard of for you. Then I had a session with someone, and they said, you know what, why don't you go back and see if he's got anything, you know, rather than wait till September. And I did that. Actually, I didn't do that. I walked right past the desk, into the parking lot, turned around in the parking lot, came upstairs, said, any chance? And they said, how about tomorrow at 10:15? So it was like, that to me was miraculous. I figured everybody could probably go along with that, but that was my miracle for the weekend.
That's a good one.
One over here.
Especially based on what our experience was.
Yes.
That was a really big
Absolutely.
miracle.
Absolutely.
I was on vacation, and when you read that line again about change in perspective, that's what connected me that this maybe was this little miracle. I was out hunting down a campground and had it plugged into my GPS, and long story short, I ended up on snowmobile trails instead of a road, and got stuck in the middle of nowhere in sand. And I had that helpless, powerless feeling, and it took me to my knees. I screamed, I cried, I used, I was like, really like, didn't know what to do, and but I did start, this recognition of, I used my car thing, I used a whistle that I did have, and just again, trying to find help. And then it occurred to me, well, let me get my phone out. And I got my phone out and no service, which then again made me feel all the more helpless. And I'm just sitting there just like, what can I do? And then the change of perspective and the clarity moment was remembering that I had 4-wheel drive. Though I've never used it, don't even know how to use it. But had that moment to then go get the manual, read it, and learn. And the change for me is, because I was always told I can't do stuff. The message was always, no, you can't do that. And the aha moment I had when you were saying change in perspective was that all of a sudden I realized I can. And so I looked up the manual, put it in 4-wheel drive, and got out.
Now, yeah. So I'm not gonna get into details, but if you all knew how big of a miracle that is for her, how many years have we been working together? Do you have any idea how many it is?
7 or 8.
About
7.
7, 8, like that. One of the big metaphors that that God's asked me to use with Beth is to stay in gear. Don't get stuck in neutral. Don't go back. Stay in gear. And it's just been this constant metaphor of gears and moving forward. And so I think that's absolutely perfect. That one, you finally had your breakdown, didn't you?
Yeah.
The breakdown that she hasn't been able to get to. She finally had a breakdown. She broke down. She got past the breakdown. She got into the manual. Okay, and she put it in 4-wheel drive, not just forward, 4-wheel drive, and she got out of there.
And can I add a postscript?
Yeah.
Because I talked to her within an hour or two after it happened.
Yeah.
I was not reachable when she first tried to call me. And it was basically, she was calm at that point.
Yeah.
She wasn't shaken anymore. It was, she
Came out of
proved
it.
that she was doing it.
So that's why the 4-wheel drive is even more, apropos. It had to deal with the transmission aspect of your life. So finally.
I did not put that.
Isn't that neat? She told me, she's like, I put in 4-wheel drive. I'm like, of course you put it. Just forward wasn't enough. You needed all 4 wheels going, and you were able to get out of it. So congratulations. Where in my life am I hesitant to speak the truth? I allow myself to practice speaking the truth from a loving intention this week and share my experience with my family and class. Where am I hesitant to speak the truth? Where in my life can I take on a leadership role? So where is anyone in the class, where is anyone hesitant to speak the truth? Give me a specific situation where you would be hesitant. Anyone?
Well, it happened a couple weeks ago, where I had shared with you, and Beth was there when we talked about it, that I was talking about starting a practice group in Oberlin next year. And I've known you for a long time, I consider you as a friend, but it was like, ooh, I'm not sure that I was ready to tell you, but I did. And I listened to my intuition very strongly. And that night it said, tell him about it. Because if he doesn't like it, he's going to tell you, but there's no reason he's not going to like it. So you go through this mind chatter.
Yeah.
And I told you I was not ready to share it with the whole group. The next week I was, and I had no intention of doing that. But it's definitely, well, I don't plan anything anymore, it just happens. But it's basically, and there are things that have happened since then, where Friday mornings, for some reason, I don't know why, are the greatest meditation moments. That is when things come to me that I had no idea were going to happen. And last Friday, the meditation was, okay, you're going to eventually build the house in Oakland. You're going to have a place where the practice and other people can come to do their healing work. Okay, and that wasn't enough. But when I got up, I have a little placard sitting on the table next to my bed that said, when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. And it kind of took away my breath, because part of the symbol of the logo on my company is a butterfly. And butterflies are all over the place, and people are now, I'm thinking of Beth, because they're all giving me butterflies. But the bottom line is that it was a very transformative moment. I'm not talking about the butterflies, I am the butterfly, and going through transformation and the whole spirit of what I'm doing. And people go, so how are you going to start this thing in Oberlin? And where are you going to have it? I go, I don't know. It'll just happen when it happens, and that's it. So I don't know that it was a miracle or just a progression, but the leadership thing, and afraid to speak the truth sometimes because you're not intimidating. That's not the word, okay? But there's so much respect for what you do and how much I have worked and changed with working with you that it was almost like, geez. And you had a statement a couple of meetings ago where you were talking about we're non-denominational and everybody's welcome and all of that. It's given me the permission that I don't have to go back to the church I belong to in Oberlin, because that's not who I am anymore.
Yeah. Freedom of change.
Talking of feeling intimidated to tell the truth, what about around people who you can be related to, or there's just like a really strong defensive wall against intuition or truth, or at least this strong obstacle towards change, or basically like, you know, a lot of unconsciousness that you want to be peaceful around, but then it's like you either dilute the truth, was the word you used to describe that, or, you know, kind of be like attacked, Salem witch trial style.
So it's always a space of awareness that you just investigate first. What's the point? What is the point in you telling the truth? Okay, is there a reason behind it? What are you trying to accomplish? And it's not to be biblical, but it's just such a great phrase. You know, you don't throw the pearls in front of the swine. Okay, you don't need to do something that someone's not going to appreciate. You don't need to do something that's not really going to make a difference. If you don't feel in your heart that it's going to bring an elevation or a change, then you don't have to feel obligated to do it in that situation. You're not doing it out of fear. You're not doing it out of dread or what might happen. You're not doing it because it's not going to do any good. Okay, you're still being it. You're still holding your space, but in certain situations where they're just not open, now then there's no need. Now, let's say a situation was happening like that, where there was someone who was highly unconscious and they were acting out against other people, okay, like we talked about in your situation. Well then, even if you don't think it'll do any good, you have an obligation to say, you know, are you aware? And so forth. So it's not a one size fits all, you know. But what I found is that in family relationships, where there isn't cohesiveness, where there is a bit of a push a lot of times asking an open-ended question is a great way to see where they're at. How has everything been going for you? How is your life? How's your experience? How are you enjoying your job? Like, you can ask some open-ended questions, okay? And then once you get someone being honest, well, it's this, or well, it's that, or maybe it's this, then all of a sudden you can kind of make a space for, well, have you ever thought about this, or did you ever consider that, or maybe have you ever looked at it this way? So a lot of times you can open a situation up just by asking someone a compassionate question. And compassionate questions are good. When you say them from that place of compassion, boy, how's that job been going for you? They understand that you're not like, hey, how's that job? You know, they understand that you're asking because you have a genuine concern for what might be happening in their life. And they're more open in that place. So you try to establish rapport. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. Okay? But these are just, as you ask me these questions, these are just things that I've learned over 20 years of dealing with people. And with what I do, there's a requirement for rapport to move forward. I can't force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. So I have to get them to a place of surrender and relaxation as quick as possible, so that I can shift the energy, and then they see me as something that's not a threat. So practice, 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 practice. So what did everybody think when they saw that video? I want some replies. What did everybody? And I got what you put. What was your immediate response when you saw Brandon getting out of that wheelchair?
What was the story behind that?
Okay, so Brandon came to see me about 9 to 10 months ago, and he had unexplained paralysis of his lower extremities. So he would just he wasn't able to walk. So they took him to all the neurologists and had all the testing. They couldn't find out what was wrong with him. So then they brought him to me, and after he saw me the first time, he was able to walk out, which was just a miracle. And we were like, oh my God, we should have filmed it. Okay, we should have filmed it, because that was like you guys have all had amazing miracles, subtle, dramatic, but that one was just like two by four, like, oh my God. So he would come in, and he would be great. He was doing better, and he'd have little fallbacks, but he would be a little wobbly, and he would need a little tune-up, and he would fine. So then he had his longest run for like 5 or 6 months. He was just amazing, no problems at all. And he was getting into wanting to know if he could do some more exercising with his dad, and he was really feeling good. And then all of a sudden, he had that episode where he was the worst he'd ever been. So when he came in to see me that day, that was the worst he'd ever been. And that's what I tried to explain, that Sarah and Taylor, we were trying to do a transfer and get him into the wheelchair and get him into the office, because they usually would kind of put their arms around him, and he would kind of like drag his feet in, but this time he was totally out. So that's how he was when he walked in. And and then, right, and then he walked out, which was phenomenal. I see, honestly, that was a very big physical miracle, but it's hard to scale them. There's so many huge ones. I can see them in all of you all the time, just huge miracles happening. And the best ones are the ones that, this was wonderful, because, we got to demonstrate in a very quick period of time. People like miracles that happen very quickly, but the best miracles are the ones that happen over long periods of time. The miracles I see happen in all your lives that have absolutely, and I know you're going to get your chuckle with me after you just gave me, but like the miracles that have absolutely nothing to do with me, that I get to watch happen because of your engagement in your life and the decisions you're learning how to make. I'm telling you, the biggest miracle is that book, and what it teaches us, and what it opens our minds to, and how it allows us to think outside the box. It gives the practice gives us permission to be free. It gives us permission to be open to this vast field of consciousness. And one of my dear friends who passed away, her name is Judith, we called her Judy Canado, and she wrote a book called Fields of Compassion. I think some of you might have known Judy. You knew Judy, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, Fields of Compassion. And she was writing that book. Okay, the cool part is that she was writing that book, at the same time I was talking the practice. So, and I didn't read her book purposely. I didn't read her book until I put out the practice. And her book is amazing. It's called Fields of Compassion. It's by Judy Cannato, C-A-N-N-A-T-O, I believe is how you spell it, isn't it, Cannato?
It is. She was in Rome.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Sister of St. Joseph.
Yeah, she was
over at River Sage.
right. So she that's an amazing book. And it basically, what's cool about it is it talks about the same things the practice talks about in a bunch of different words, okay? But the long and the short of it is that what she's talking about is that this field of compassion that we're evolving into, okay, it is just it's the next natural state of being, of matter. It's the next, what she calls it's the next morphogenic field. It's just the next field that things are developing into, and that the resurrection and transformation, and she's obviously coming from a Christian standpoint, that it is nothing more than just the next step of what's going to happen, which is exactly what the practice talks about. This is just the evolution of consciousness. It's the form that's going to follow, and what she talks about, and she explains it on the quantum level, because she did the research into the quantum level when she wrote the book, was that literally all quantum fields, they start with a shift in energy, in particulate matter, that starts to get into a new form, and then that gains momentum. And then as it gains momentum, it ripples all the way through the field, and then there's a more mass transformation. So all these times we talk about, I'm just looking for the first 100 monkeys, I'm just looking for the first amount of people, and like, we're kind of that group of monkeys, and of course there's more of us in the world that are moving to this place. So it just again validated that whole notion of, this is just the way it's going to be. This is just the way it's going to be. And what was impossible, okay, is irrelevant. A boy coming in a wheelchair and walking out, that's just what's going to be. A woman who lived in complete isolation because of childhood abuse issues, okay, releasing them fully and letting them go, and then 2 months later coming in and seeing me and telling me that the most amazing man in the world literally knocked on her door because he was trimming her trees, and now they're having a relationship together. And like, to me, that's how it's going to happen. There's nothing impossible about that. There's nothing unusual about that. That's just the way things happen.
It's almost like we've reached the tipping point.
Right.
It's like there's just enough of us now so that it's happening all over the world.
That's it.
And we've reached the tipping point.
Yeah. And it's just the way it happens, As much as I'm not taking one bit away from it being brilliant, magnificent, miraculous. It's all those things. But we are so blessed to be in this time when this is really, really coming into the field. It's really starting to develop. So it's a very, very fun time. Very fun time to be here. So let's do our lesson, right? So this is a chapter that tends to stir some questions and some controversy within people's fields of consciousness, but it's a good one. So it's on page 106. I'm going to read 106, 107 and a half, and 108. So it's just a little reading here. I practice this kind of living. Okay, as you practice over and over a greater and greater number of experiences and respond with choiceless surrender, responding in unconditional love will eventually become your first option. So when Brandon came in and he was this way, there wasn't anything in me that knew he wasn't. It just didn't know he wasn't going to be healed. Okay, it just knew it. And it was all about claiming it. It was all about saying, you know what? All these times we've seen this amazing miracle, and we've talked about it, but we've kept it in such a small space. Like, why do we want to keep such miracles in such a small space? how does that benefit so many other people? We need to talk about these miracles. We need to share these miracles. We need to spread the word of these miracles without exaggeration, okay? Just let them, they speak enough in and of themselves. So people say, well, what do you think is going to happen now that you filmed it? Do you think it's ever going to happen to them again? And I said, I can't imagine any reason why. I mean, there could be a reason I'm not aware of, but to me, that was the reason, you know, that was the reason why, because his miracle was meant to affect so many thousands of people. So once it's had that effect, once the miracle has had that effect, the miracle would never have to be redone. So I keep talking to you all so much, and I keep telling you all the most important thing you need to allow yourself to be right now is what? Healed. Just continue to be healed. Just continue to be healed and have these miracles and speak of these miracles and share these miracles. Not, and again, you know, my miracles, miracles of life. Just speak of them constantly. You know, you're all aware of them happening to you. You might think they're insignificant, okay? But they're amazing. They're amazing. I practice this kind of living moment after moment. As a student of life, this is what I've learned and what you too will learn as you put yourself in life's classroom as a student rather than a distracted observer. We are all at various levels of consciousness, and we all ask each other, and we can all ask each other humbly to live without suffering or engaging in suffering by engaging in the practice of living and loving life from a place of unconditional love, peace, acceptance, and compassion. We can do it to help ourselves, our families, our friends, our so-called enemies, and our world. The end of unnecessary suffering can begin right now in each of our lives as we surrender personal choice and we choose choiceless surrender. Thy will. Okay, thy will. Then we can release our need for emotions to guide us in our energetic reactions. They stimulate to imbalance us. We free ourselves and all others from unnecessary suffering. As you move into choiceless surrender, what will you lose? For one thing, you will lose the drama that always seems to be around your personal choices. You'll lose the kick of emotions and the stress of reactions. You'll lose hyperactivity. Life becomes wonderful and beautiful, and